All right, mic check 1, 2. Can YouTube hear me? He is a student of Colt Steele's Springboard bootcamp. This one has been talked about a lot. We're going to ask him some questions. Let me get into my live stream control panel here. Whoop, sorry about that. Darn it. Here we go. That. Okay. Live. Let's see
awesome.
it happen. Okay, we have 14 people here in the chat. We have a little bit of a lag on Zoom, but that's okay. William Claybrook, what's up? Hello, Muhammad, and everyone joining us. I have a special guest today. I am not going to hog the camera much longer. His name is Doug. He's a self-taught developer. He recently enrolled in Steele's multiple thousands of dollars boot on Springboard, and he emailed me months ago, and I said, yes, I want to interview you and talk about what it's all about, your experience, if you think it's worth it, and all this. Now, before we approach of it, introduce yourself and tell us a little about what you're up to.
Sure. So I'm Dom. I live and work here in St. Louis, Missouri. I initially started coding about 2 years ago and went to a local boot camp. It's called Launch Code here in town, and like just didn't feel like I knew enough, which kind of led me to a couple of other boot camps, coupled with, I think at this point, well over 100 Udemy courses that I've almost finished now. So yeah, like that was kind of where things started, and it was just kind of like I just wanted to learn more. So like that's where the big push for Udemy, that's where it kind of happened, and then it kind of branched off to other kind of MOOC sites. I've got, I think, like 10 of them right now that I have paid subscriptions to. It's kind of asinine, but yeah, just the whole idea of like learning to learn was like super important, and this stuff helps. So
okay, so Colt Steele, so this was like a dramatic thing that I did a video on, because Colt Steele is known for his $10 Udemy bootcamp. Everyone's seen it. If you haven't seen it, you've at least heard of it or taken it, or one of those combinations. So it's $10, but now his new bootcamp is like $8,000 or $10,000. Like what made you say, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on this and just go all out with this amount of money?
Well, I mean, because it was Colt. I mean, that was the majority of it. I felt like I had like a dramatic amount of growth even after I'd finished, 2 boot camps at that point. I figured I had the dramatic amount of growth, like with the web developer boot camp. Like that was the first thing, and it was like, oh my gosh, like picked up so much more than what I had. And I think at that point it was more so ingraining what I had already kind of caught along the way. And this, because I was able to take it at my own speed, feel like I was able to kind of dig it in more.
Right.
So
you said how far along are you, and what have you been studying at the Springboard bootcamp?
I'm about, I think I just looked, it was 78%. So there's a portion of it that's not finished yet. So this last section, and to be honest with you, it's a lot like his other courses. I from this perspective, I think that if you had done the web developer bootcamp and the advanced web developer bootcamp, and maybe, because I think he has a new one out, the modern JavaScript bootcamp.
Oh yeah, yep.
It's that, right? Like it's
okay.
Those things combined, and like maybe even because like there's a big React app that's at the end that is, fewer videos, more kind of giving you requirements and kind of having you step through that way, because it's a good thing to learn when you're planning on doing this professionally, is kind of breaking down requirements and building to those requirements. So but yeah, like it's really, in my opinion, it's like they packaged up a lot of his stuff that he had already done in Udemy and put Springboard's name on it.
Okay. So these are all pre-recorded videos. So you just go in at your convenience and watch the video and do the project, or what's the format of it?
Yeah, so it's a lot like Udemy. Like you would sign in, and there's modules, and typically there's now on some of them, like you'll have just text, but on the majority of the modules, there'll be a video that
Okay.
accompanies the actual module, and then they have you do some sort of exercise. Sometimes it's immediately after, sometimes it's towards the end of the module, but yeah, so it's just him just teaching as he normally would. So
Okay. But the big difference is with this, so there's a big price tag to this, but they mention a job guarantee. Like
right,
how does that work? Can you go into that?
sure. So there's a financing element that's through a company called Climb, and you have, I think they give you 12 months to complete the whole entire course, and they have in-house some recruiters that have connections with, I can't remember exactly which companies it was, but like they've got connections around, and they can basically help you improve your interview skills as well as like get your resume together and all the stuff that you would think that a career services operation would kind of do. But like they go above and beyond if it is they, because again, I don't need a job, I already have a job. So
Right.
but they go above and beyond to help you cultivate your online presence. Like my LinkedIn really got picked on, so which I thought, because like I didn't really pay any attention, right? Like I had stuff on there that I had done, but like I wasn't really keeping up with it, and they really kind of picked at that. So but yeah, like that portion is great. Like I'd say like overall the course is what you would expect from Colt. It's
Okay.
clean, it's concise. There's not a whole bunch of errors everywhere that you got to end up chasing stuff down. But it's again a lot like the stuff from Udemy. The payoff is especially when you're just trying to get into the field, right? When they're saying that they're going to guarantee that you get a job, and also you get a mentor that you work with. And the initial guy that I was working with, like went to school at MIT, and he was working at Google at the time. So super smart, super helpful. So those two things, I would say, when I put it against other boot camps that I've done, I'd say like that's where the incentive is right there. Just
Okay.
having that.
Would you say so far you're about 75% done with the course? Would you say so far that your investment has been paying off, or do you think the payout's going to come later, or are you satisfied with it so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied, and again, a lot of it too was considering the price. Like I actually had educational credit from my employer that I was able to use that actually paid for it. So it
Okay.
was nice in that manner that was taken care of. 'Cause, I mean, like had I started it and it was paying for it on my own and would have started to kind of and it's not, I don't want to make it sound like it's like carbon copy things that you've seen in like web developer bootcamp or advanced web developer bootcamp, but like HTML is HTML, right? Like
Right.
so JavaScript by and large, especially when you're learning basics, is what it is, right? So the added value is that you get that one-on-one mentor time, you get that job guarantee.
Okay. So you're kind of a boot camp veteran by this point. Can you, what are, I've heard so many horror stories, but I've also heard some really good stories about boot camps.
Right.
What's some advice you can give to people considering a boot camp, or anything about boot camps that you'd want to add?
Um, I don't want to say that you kind of get what you pay for, but a lot of the times that is kind of what it is. And I think too, in starting, there are plenty of options out there that you don't have to pay $12,000 for, right? Like you shouldn't feel obligated to have to jump to like, because I know that like after I'm finished with this in the next 2 months, like because I'm done with boot camps, but I'm gonna do one more, so I'm gonna do Codesmith. So
Oh, wow.
uh, uh, and I think again, a lot of this stuff you can get from like even the MDM docs, you know, just going and looking through and trying to understand. And I know you've said it in a lot of the stuff that I've watched from you too, like you doing the web developer bootcamp or the advanced web developer bootcamp is not what's going to prepare you for this job, right? Like
Right.
there's certain amounts of the reason why I decided on Codesmith was because of their emphasis in like technical communication. Like that's one of the things that you see most often, because a lot of times, again, especially when you are, you know, I call myself a convert, right? This was not my first career. So a lot of the times you will deal with individuals that sometimes don't have the ability to communicate something, right? They want to like just move and I'll do it. Like, so
Right.
like having that ability is what I think is what ends up separating us. You know, it's one of the again, the major portions why I decided on Codesmith to begin with. So.
Okay, cool. So speaking of like real world stuff, what is some advice? Because I have one guy right now in the Discord, he's starting his first dev job. What are some just common words of wisdom you can give to people about to start a job, or maybe their first week on the job?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the major thing for me at least was like trying to understand something from someone else's perspective, you know, because again, like when someone's teaching you, sometimes it's like at least the way that I feel is like it's sometimes the teacher maybe isn't the best, but like you're not going to get to mold the teacher, right? So like you may have a senior that you're working with that's not great at like giving you details up front, which is the reason why you need to be able to kind of like figure that out. Like, okay, it's probably not going to give me exactly what it is that I need. So like you're going to need to like grow the ability to like ask a good question, right? That's like a huge thing. So and again, I think too, like, the majority of it after 2 years of doing it, I'd say the majority of it is not code. It's the ability to deal with humans like in while doing technology. Technology is not the
Exactly.
problem. It's
Right.
the human aspect of interaction that creates the tension. The code stuff can always be figured out, right? Like it's so, but yeah, like just be aware of kind of how you're coming off and I'd like to say, especially with some of the people that I work with, they were the type that you knew would like spend time outside of work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you need to go crazy like I did, but like just having the ability to like want to learn more. Like those are the types of people that you want to work with, stuck
And
with 9 to 5ers.
yeah, I'm glad you said that too, because that is it's almost like a culture shock when you're doing this stuff on your own, you're working on your own projects, you're in your own world, and then you get to the job and it's like it's such a collaborative environment. And
Right.
these are people, these could be people you hang out after work, these could be people that you would never hang out with after work. But
Right.
either way,
Right.
you're stuck with them for 8 to 12 hours a day. And
Right.
it's like you're working on the same project and you've got to find a way to make it work. And that was, I mean, I've been in different careers prior to this, but I think it was still a shock because the processes of doing it on your own are just night and day difference when you're
Sure.
on the job. And even just getting like code reviews, that can be your first couple code reviews can be absolutely like anxiety ridden because people
Right.
are taking apart every line. Like, yeah, maybe
Right.
this isn't the best choice. And just
Right.
dealing with that constructive criticism and stuff. So, all right. Do you have anything else to add before we check out some questions and comments from the live chat?
Sure. So like you mentioned code reviews. So and then I'll tell you about a situation where like I was clearly being stupid and learned a lesson. But so one of the best senior devs that I worked for was at a company called Volley, that was local here in St. Louis, and the guy's name is Alex, and he's fantastic. But the first PR that I did, like you said, he he shredded me. Like
Ugh.
it was
Yep.
it was hilarious, and like I was clearly like affected by it, and he saw it, and like again, we call him Mr. Low EQ, but he came over and was like, hey, you aren't your code. Like you don't need to like don't feel like I'm personally attacking you because it's not what it is. I'm trying to help you get better. And and yes, you can see times where like people get overly nitpicky with things, but in this case, he really was trying to help me get better. And so after that, like I didn't take offense to anything that got said in the PR because like I'm not infallible, right? And like I can make mistakes. I do make mistakes, and like having someone that is trying to look out for not just the best interests of the code base, but you as a engineer is critical, right? Like that's how you improve, right?
Don't take it personal. Don't, it's not a
Don't.
personal
It's
attack.
not.
Okay.
It is not.
Good
It is
advice.
not. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Developers, what questions do you have for Dom? We got a super chat from Paradoodly Doo. Wants to know, Dom, what's your reason for going to multiple boot camps?
Okay, so like my first career was as a professional musician in the Army, right? So like we were very much so aware of, especially at the premier band level, which is where I was in DC. So like when I came over to like when I started learning how to code, like it's very much so a thing to like talk about imposter syndrome. But like when I said I sucked, like no, I meant it. Like I was not was not joking or like going around and like dealing with imposter syndrome. Like I was legitimately not good. So the way that, at least especially for the basics, the way that I picked up things, especially to be able to not have to like actively be thinking about them, was to repeatedly do them and like step through each individual step and make sure that I understand it. And what these boot camps a lot of the times did, because I'd say out of the, I think I've done 6 now, I'd say probably the first 50% of all of them are basic fundamentals, like
You've
where
done
you're going
6
to,
boot camps? Hold on, time out.
yeah,
6? Wait, did you mention this earlier? I didn't hear that
yeah, like,
number.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
6. So
it didn't register. Holy crap.
yeah,
This could
like
be a
it's,
record. But keep
yeah,
going. I didn't mean to
it's
interrupt
out of
you.
control. No, no, no. So like a lot of it again is like those pounding those fundamentals, and they oftentimes, given the amount of time that they're actually having the boot camp, like that's really not enough time for you to internalize those things. And that's what I felt after the first boot camp, was that it was 3 months and they're like, you're ready to go be an engineer, and I'm like, you're full of crap, like that's not the truth. So like I don't know anything, and so I'd say probably for about the first year I kind of struggled with that, and there's still days where I'm like, I literally don't know anything. So but again, doing it repeatedly, like getting your hands on something, and again, a lot of the time it's not like a lot with the Udemy stuff. Sometimes, in fact, I'd say probably the majority of the time, if you actually went to my GitHub, if you look at the repo, like I don't do the exact project that they do. Like I think the last one that I've done verbatim was Colt Steele's, the React one, the colors one. Generally, what I
Okay.
try and do is like have my own idea and try and build around the concepts, like taking those concepts and do something completely different. Because like you said, like if someone is looking to hire somebody and get a resume and you see a bunch of stuff that you know for a fact, or I can just get on GitHub and look, and why do all of these repos have the same name? So like clearly that's some sort of Udemy course or something like that. So
Right, right.
like, building your own idea like that's what helps. I mean, you got to get your hands on the stuff. So
So do you think, being an art, you said you're in the Army band, so you're an Army vet, do you think Army boot camp has any, do these boot camps have any resemblance to an actual boot camp?
well, sometimes like so I can say for instance like going through the stuff, this initial stuff with Codesmith, like they will tear you down. Like they absolutely will, because a lot of the time things that would typically be taught in online courses, they fail to prepare you for a job. Like that's really the way it goes, almost the overwhelming majority of the part of the time. But like so Codesmith really kind of does the thing where like they will, it's called hard learning, where they will give you problems that are virtually impossible for you at that moment to be able to solve, and they give you a tool and then another tool and then another tool and then another tool until you have that whole entire toolkit to be able to solve hard problems, right? That's what they're building towards, and it's just like what they do in the when you're at basic training, right? They're
Right.
gonna tear you down and then give you tools to be able to go through difficult situations. So
We also have a question. Can you drop your GitHub handle if you're comfortable sharing it?
sure, it's a polyglot dev.
Polyglot Dev. That was from Paradoodly Doo. Yeah, we have a lot of musicians. It's funny. There's a lot of comments in here about people being musicians who are now coders. It's a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sarah also asked why so many boot camps. You kind of addressed that. So this is my question. What is the end game for you as far as learning all this stuff? You have a job. Where do you see yourself in a couple of years, or what's your goal for that?
So I can't remember what his name is now, but he works at Amazon and he teaches the TypeScript, and I think there's like a VS Code course that he teaches. Um, but he's a developer advocate over at Amazon, so like he gets to touch lots of things and then teach other developers, and that's ultimately something that I'd really like to do. And because there's such an overwhelming majority of stuff out there, sometimes again, like the best way, at least for me, is to like put my hands on it and actually, use it in some sort of tangible way. So that's where I'd like to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, developer advocates, they seem like they have the coolest job, and tech evangelists, both of those,
Right.
they look so fun going on the speaking circuit and all that. So is that something you want to do too, like get on the open source circuit and give demos and stuff, or?
I mean, like I don't mind demos. I don't know that I'm very good at like public speaking per se. I don't like, kind of makes me kind of nervous, and I curse a lot, so like that's also a
Okay.
thing. So, matter of fact, if you actually go to my repo, and like a lot of times what I'll do is I will take notes. Like it's kind of a mess. So like
Good to
for
know.
me, like when I'm like kind of talking as if I were just regularly talking when I'm writing my documentation on stuff, like that is what helps me kind of internalize things on stuff. So like I don't try and be very proper in my documentation. There'll be curse words and emojis. So it's
keeping it conversational.
right.
I like it. Okay, so we got a few questions here. Let's see, where was it? Sarah wants to know, out of all the boot camps, do you recommend any one over the other?
That really depends on kind of where your starting point is. I'd say Springboard's again the well, what would I say? Yeah, if it's at a like you haven't done anything at all, like Springboard's a good starting point. If you have at least some experience, maybe you've done a couple Udemy courses, um, Codesmith, like in my opinion, that's the gold standard. Like it absolutely 100% is, and they have a free course through, I think it's CSX, that covers a lot of times more material than what I have seen, especially with the JavaScript stuff. A lot of times what you'll end up seeing is like they'll immediately jump to React, right? So like you get this much fundamentals of JavaScript and then you jump to React, which ends up causing you problems down the line. You're like,
Exactly.
I don't understand what's going on. And you're like, well, because at the end of the day, it's still just JavaScript. So yeah, so starting point, Springboard, but definitely if you've got some experience and willing to kind of put in some time on data structure and algorithm type questions, then Codesmith is the way to go.
Okay, and so is Codesmith, is that online and in person, or which options do they give?
They just started, I think it was like 4 months ago, they just started their first online cohort.
Okay.
So if you ever had any experience at all with front end masters, then you know who Will is. So like very charismatic, super caring about you learning and like wanting to grow you as an engineer. So yeah, like it's legit.
Okay, cool. Tomas wants to know, are they teaching you to be a specialist or a generalist?
An advanced generalist, right? Like I think like so it was probably about 6 months ago. I applied to Facebook just to see, right? Like
Just to
didn't
see.
think that like see if I get anything back, and it had been like a month or so after, and then a recruiter reached out to me, and the way that they describe the sorts of engineers that they're looking for are advanced generalists. They want people that can touch lots of things, right? Unless you're like data science specific, and then that's obviously, a whole nother field to get into. But in terms of like actual tried and true web engineers, they want you to be able to touch multiple things because they have a huge stack. So like you're not just going to sit down and write React, like just not the way it's going to happen. Matter of fact, I think that they have some weird variant of PHP. I can't remember what it is, or like transpiles from PHP to
That's right. Yeah.
C++ or whatever. So
Yep. Interesting. So did you apply directly to Facebook, or you were going through LinkedIn, or how'd you?
I applied directly.
Really?
Directly
Wow.
through, yeah.
Okay. Just like they have like a careers page and you just like send your resume
Mhm.
in on just the standard application procedure. Cool.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to the comments. Lots of musicians in the chat. Don't be shy, developers. Let's see some more musicians in here. Hey, Chiquito, what's going on? Good to see you. Also, too, Chiquito, thank you for the kombucha, golden pineapple. So, oh yeah. So what, let's talk about like what you prefer as a developer. What languages just do you find a big interest in, or maybe what technologies don't you find an interest in?
So I like JavaScript. Like I know that's kind of a weird thing, but like I legitimately like JavaScript. I think it's because when it started to make sense, it was when I was using JavaScript. So I
Okay.
initially started out with Python and Java, and I like detested Java because like it was something would always be broken, and IntelliJ was not cooperating, and I don't know where the JVM needs to point to, and it was just a mess, right? So
Same, yeah.
um,
I tried to get my print. I thought print line said print in, and I could not print a simple hello world for like 3 days, and I flipped a table. I was so
right,
upset. I was so
right.
upset. But go
I
on.
totally get it. Yeah, like I mean, like the stuff that I really like working in is like I really like JavaScript. I like Python. I like Rust. Um, Oddly enough, I actually like Kotlin now.
Okay.
It's like JavaScript without all the nonsense, or like Java without the nonsense. So,
Right.
um, I'm a fan of Ruby. I like Docker, but like those are pretty much like if I had to like only pick things like that, that's the stuff that I really like. So.
Okay. So going to the different, can you talk about the different stacks these boot camps have taught, like the 6 boot camps you've been experienced with? Do they teach different stacks, or is it mostly mirroring, one technology? Is it all like burn stack, or is one Ruby, is one Ruby on Rails, is one Java, and what are they
So
trying to
block
push?
was definitely Ruby. Like they were the tail end of it. Really is. They've now added a React section and a Node section, I think, too. But when I started, like it was like basic HTML, and then there was some JavaScript. And I think they did Angular JS, and then it like bursts into where it's like the meat of the where you're getting into the computer science concepts. That stuff was all Ruby. I did another one, Wazoo, that was Java. So I did a Java backend one. And the other ones have virtually been like lots and lots of JavaScript stuff. So, um,
So is the way they teach is, how do the boot camps decide who's good to be a teacher? And have you noticed like a big difference in the quality of instructors?
like instructors, I've not seen bad instructors. I have seen well, in any boot camps I've been in, like again, I've not seen any instructor that I would like single out and be like, I didn't like that style of teaching or whatever. But like there was numerous cases in other boot camps where like you would have a mentor. In fact, I think every single one that I've done, you've had a mentor, and like you would see where. And again, I guess that it's different because like education itself is a vacuum, right? So like sometimes they'll like tell you things that don't necessarily equate to like real world things, like where you'll beat your head on the wall for 3 hours. Like I don't believe that you should do that. Like that's a silly thing to do, right? Like there's probably you're not asking the right question. But so if you were at work and you stood for 4 hours, like meandering around on this problem, like that's really a waste of your time because now you've wasted half your day on attempting to figure out one thing when you probably could have gone and asked a question and gotten 3 things done. So
Right.
I'm not encouraging you to every single time you have a question, run and go ask somebody, but like time box it, right? Like say, I'm going to spend this much time. And after that, like I'm going to try and figure out what I don't understand so that I can ask a question. But
Okay. We got a super chat from Donovan. Donovan, thanks for the super chat. Donovan wants to know, what full stack are you interested in or currently using?
so one of the applications that we are rebuilding now is it's React. Actually, it's Next. So we've got that. We've got actually it's almost virtually the same exact stack from Wes Boss's advanced course. So it's
Okay.
React and GraphQL and Oh, what's our database now? I can't even remember. Prisma on the back, and GraphQL Yoga as well on the
Oh, nice.
back end layer. So
Okay, cool. Paradiddly wants to know, did you ever feel left behind in a boot camp? Was a mentor able to spend enough time with you to help you understand something?
so in the first boot camp I did, one of the guys I consider, one of my best friends, like I was struggling. Matter of fact, I'll just be perfectly honest with you. Like I got a D. Like they should not have passed me. Like at that point, I think I talked better than I coded. So, but he always tried to help me because like this was kind of a beta test for launch code. It was the first time that they had done an all day boot camp. So, because typically their classes are like, like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right, for a couple of hours. So, uh, it was a trial, and it was hard. It was just super super hard for me. Like I'd be stuck, and then I spent more time separating over why I'm stuck than actually spending time on actual problems. So don't do that. That's a bad thing. I just said that. So like don't do that thing. So but yeah, like it was tough. So.
Okay. And how important, like we've talked about this a few times on the channel, we talked about mentors. What are some tips you can give for people trying to find a mentor? Because they are so important in putting developers on the right track a lot of times.
You want somebody that like you feel safe enough to, because like we all feel dumb, like that's the thing. Like I think even if you were at Facebook, you could probably find somebody that's forgotten more than you currently know, right? Like, and that's everywhere. So like finding somebody that you can be safe with, but also somebody that will challenge you, right? You know, doing it an hour once a week is not going to get you there. And like you should feel okay with them like bringing that to you to get better, right? Like you want them to push you, you want them to challenge you so that you're learning more.
So the idea is with a mentor, you bring them, any type of issue you're having with your code and just bringing you to that next level. But I mean, you can have more than one mentor, and they just, sure. You can shop around for them too. Because like we kind of touched upon, like you want to look for someone who can, like you mentioned, you want to look for someone where you can be honest, that you can trust, and not feel inadequate. You want to, be with somebody who is like, you're doing good. Here's what you can do better, and be constructive criticism rather than, trolling you or whatever. So
right, you don't take a beat down every day. But yeah, like somebody that's going to be honest with you. So
right, okay, let's go to the questions here. So if you got any more developers, if you're just joining us, we are talking with Dom. He is a boot camp king. Yes, hi Dom. Thanks for joining us. We are talking about his experience with Springboard. He's currently going to Colt Steele's boot camp on Springboard. I did a video about this a few months ago because I was shocked to see that Colt Steele upgraded from his $10 course to an $8,000 or $10,000 course. But Dom is telling us all about it, a bit about his experiences with his other boot camps. So if you have a question, we're taking questions from the audience now, so let's hear it. Kev wants to know, are there a lot of foreign applicants in the boot camps, and can they get jobs?
So Codesmith definitely. Since now they have that online element. I think in a lot of the other ones, not as much, but like I wouldn't want to deter you from applying, especially to an online one, because again, like the opportunity is there. And I think too, like if you can get a visa or like get sponsored and speak English to the point to where like, again, like you'll be able to communicate with someone. You don't need to be a native speaker or anything. I don't want to, put it like that, but being able to communicate with somebody is a must when you do this. So at least if you, in my opinion, to be successful, like that's one of the main things is that you're able to communicate ideas. So yeah, I would say, yeah, like you should definitely do it. Like, check it out.
Okay, cool. Catherine wants to know, how do you balance working full time and taking courses like boot camps on the side and family time?
Hopefully this isn't Catherine that I work with, but
Catherine Mori, is that her?
Yep, it is. Hi, Catherine. How are you? That's my coworker.
Hi,
so
Catherine.
She knows about my crazy Notion boards and all that. I think that the way that I figured it out, because she's like actually my accountability partner too. So because I was just like willy-nilly buying Udemy courses. So it was to the point where it was semi out of control, right? Where I
Hoarding,
think
Udemy
now,
hoarding, it's a thing.
yeah, let me see how many I actually have. Let's 104.
Oh my gosh.
So I would start and then get distracted and go do something else. And so I had all of these that were like in varying levels of completion and wasn't retaining any of the actual information. Like I'd go back to it and be like, who wrote this? Like what even is this? So I think that when I decided that I was going to work on certain things, certain days, and only work on them for a certain amount of time, like that's when was able to get more balance in my day as opposed to like sitting and rehashing 4 hours of a course that I had already done. So now you've spent 8 hours and you virtually spent the whole entire course time in one chunk because you had to go back to the starting point. Like, oh, now I remember what I was doing there. So
right. So you've touched upon time management a few times in the chat. Can you flesh it out and talk about it a little more, like time boxing and like some different techniques for time management, because it's such an important thing.
sure. So I use a couple of applications to kind of schedule the way that I do work. So Asana is one of them. And it links directly to a Jira board that I have so that I'm able to track time through an application called Timecamp,
Okay.
which like will show me like minute to minute what I've done on my machine. And then like the overarching time that I actually keep is it's called Waka time. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but like basically it shows how much time I spend in a given repo. So what it allows me to do, like today, after I finish this, what I'll do is I'll sit down and I will look at the work that I've done for the week, and I'll compare against Timecamp as well as Waka time to see exactly where I'm wasting time, right? Or like where
Nice.
I'm not being very efficient. And again, like that's like you don't have to do that, right? Like Waka time would be more than enough because what it'll do is it tracks the exact amount of time that you spend in an editor. So if you see that you were doing a Docker course on Udemy and you spent 6 hours on this one section, because like it'll even show like each commit that you use. So like I could go in and see per section exactly how much time that I spend on any given module.
So it can be shocking if you find out you've been working on a certain branch for like 8 hours. You're like, what am I doing with my life? Or like a certain course, like, why am I doing this?
Right, you're just beating your head. So
cool. Okay, so William has a question here. He says, what do you think, what is your opinion, what's the worst problem with boot camps?
I'd say that you feel like you have to have.
Uh-oh.
I don't consider myself. Oh, you lose me?
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Okay. Oh yeah, now it says my connection is unstable. Hold on a second. Maybe. Okay, I think it's fine now. Yeah, I was saying, I think that the worst thing and is probably like that people feel like they have to have them. I know people that did not go through a boot camp and still yet got a job, right? Like this is, I don't consider myself smart at all, right? Like this was a matter of wanting to spend the time. Like, so I was willing, right? And I was willing to sit down, and even if I felt dumb or like I didn't feel like I was going anywhere, like I still spent the time. So like I don't want to encourage people to go out and spend 10 grand. Like please don't do that and then they come back and say that, well, Dom said that. So but yeah, you don't have to have, like there's so much, the internet is huge, right? Like there's so much information out there that you can get for free. I mean, to be honest with you, like free code camp, like their curriculum's pretty legit. Like if you actually go and look at it, it's pretty legit. So yeah, like don't go out and spend a bunch of money, man. Like it's not worth it. Like
Okay.
you don't need that.
Paradoodly wants to know, do you have any good recommendations for staying focused?
Pomodoro clock. I'm really bad about, like, especially when I'm in kind of a flow state. I will like, because I usually do on 30-minute increments. And if I'm in a flow state, like I will skip the break. Don't skip the break. Take the break. Like get up, walk, get a glass of water, whatever. But like take the break. But Pomodoro clocks are good.
Okay. I've
breaking
tried
that
the
more down.
Pomodoro a few times. I need to just convince myself to stay disciplined because I'm like, well, I'm in a groove right now. I don't want to take a break or I don't want to be interrupted. And I just have such a hard time just committing to it. Like, I don't know. Was that hard for you or did it click with you?
Now I use it pretty regularly, and I have a VS Code extension that will like basically, without me having to like put a password, and will like lock the browser, so like I can't do anything in it.
Oh, nice.
So like it'll make you take a break and walk away for a minute and then come back. But yeah, it was hard. Like especially when I'm, well, you feel like you're on a roll and like, oh my gosh, like I'm understanding literally all the words. So um, yeah, take a break. Like you gotta take a break.
Okay. Chiquito wants to know if you were to finish all of the Udemy coding courses, could you learn to be a good developer?
No, like that's I mean, no. Learning how to do a thing and actually doing it in real life are two different things, I think. This was, and again, I don't want to discourage anybody from taking Udemy courses. You absolutely should. It's a good learning tool, but it is not an end all be all, and it is not ultimately, in my opinion, what will earn you a job. Like that's, and like I've never had anybody ask me about a GitHub. Like done more interviews than I can count at this point. I've never had anybody ask me, but like being able to having that high level technical communication, as well as again having the desire to want to learn more, because what you'll see sometimes is where people will get satisfied and they kind of get in that rut where like I've learned enough. Like I don't really know that there is enough. Like you just continue to learn until there's nothing left, right?
Right,
So
right.
continue the push. So
Okay. Paradoodly asked, if you had to do it all over, would you take all those Udemy courses again? If yes, why?
I think that they're fun. I know that's probably not, it's kind of a weird thing, but like again, I enjoy learning. So and having different tools at my disposal. Because again, like if you touch something, you're probably far more likely in a real situation to have a faster way in terms of understanding. Like if you've never touched Docker and Kubernetes before, and you go on your job and or you're on your first job and somebody throws that at you and you're like, I don't, you automatically feel that kind of sense of fear, like how am I going to learn all this? And that's avoidable by just, again, you don't need to spend all night, but like spending a little bit of time learning things that are currently out there in the field.
Okay. Tomas is asking about the boot camps. Do they promote practices like Agile and DevOps?
Uh, I think in all of them there's been sections. Launch Code didn't. That was straight up code, but the other ones, yes, there were more kind of practices around like learning what Jira is, learning how to submit tickets and read tickets and so on and so forth.
Okay. Mila Morris wants to know, hey, Mila, are you the one who interviewed me, by the way? Shout out to Little Miss Engineer, Paradoodly Do, if you could quick plug that interview I did with Little Miss Engineer. I think that's Mila, but anyways, side topic rant. Mila wants to know, what has been your favorite project to work on thus far?
Well, Udemy stuff definitely was the color one. That was good. That was super good. And matter of fact, there's the project that's in Andre Naganoy's course. The last one that he did, I can't remember the last React one that he did. I think it's React Developer in 2020. I think is what it is. That project was cool too. But I think in terms of like work projects, Volley was awesome. That was a machine learning product that was basically like learning how you learned and then would give you information in that way. So like if you were a visual learner in terms of like videos that would try and like present video content, or if you tested best on like straight up reading and then it would present you information like that. So
Okay. Tatiana Jefferson wants to know, what was the name of that extension that locks your browser? Is that the one you're talking about?
ooh, yeah, you might have to let me see. Uh,
Developers, welcome to the live stream. If you're just joining us again, we are talking to Dom He's currently enrolled in Springboard's bootcamp. We are talking about the code. We're talking about what he does. He's been to 6 bootcamps. He is currently checking out an extension that will help you stay focused. It's gonna lock your browser. It's gonna get you laser-like.
Actually, it's just called Pomodoro. So it's the
Pomodoro,
first
okay,
one.
okay.
Yeah. It's the top one. It's got 5 stars. Looks like 4K downloads. So you have to. There's a setting that you'll have to do. So if you're on Mac, you can just do Command-Shift-P and then type Pomodoro, and the setting is there.
All right, cool, cool. Let's see, ArcTech W700. What's up, ArcTech? While developing your skills, did you ever experience burnout, mental fatigue? And if so, how did you deal with it?
There's definitely days where I'm done with this, and like I gotta pick up an Xbox controller or PlayStation controller to kind of. But like I genuinely do like it, right? It's not like because like some people will do it, will say, especially coming from other careers where like you maybe don't have the same earning, like don't have even the same potential of growth in terms of earning. But like I legitimately do it because I enjoy it. There are some days where I want to throw my computer like everybody else, but like
right.
I really do enjoy it.
So before I just have a question, like what initially, you may have mentioned this earlier in the interview, but what initially sparked your interest in doing web development specifically? Because you're talking about Kotlin, and have you ever thought about doing like, I don't know, data science or iOS stuff? Do you consider yourself a web developer? Like, because I know you're a generalist, but is it just web?
So no, like I tried this, but that was the whole entire polyglot thing to start with. Like I wanted to learn the whole entire stack. Now, data science goes into like very, very in-depth levels of mathematics that like I don't currently have, that you really do need to have. Like you really need to understand linear algebra before you can do any sort of machine learning. Like you just have to understand it. Like it's just kind of a fundamental thing. I did finish 2 weeks ago on the Udacity data engineer nano degree. So
nice.
That stuff I like, but like I'm not a fan of like sitting down and having to do math. No. So
yeah, me neither. Or like, yeah, some of that advanced stuff, no, too many numbers, too many symbols and weird things and all that stuff.
And the web stuff was more because like I got to see my work, right? As opposed to sometimes where you're on back end and you don't necessarily kind of get to see that effort when you like, been working on it for a really long time and you're like, I hope this works. And like, I very much so get the instant gratification of if I break something in React, like I'm going to know like right away.
Yeah, normalizing a database doesn't have that pop of like making a beautiful landing page.
Right.
Okay, we got a few other questions here. Developers, great questions, by the way. Keep them coming. Kev wants to know, can you type the project's name? I didn't quite catch the name of the project that you think are good. Were you talking about Andre Negoy's, was that the Crown Clothing project for that React one?
Yeah, I think so, but I can look real quick. Let me just go to it. What is this new platform? I can't remember.
Zerotomastery.io.
Yeah.
I think.
It's funny too now because like all of his courses that were on Udemy are now here, so which I think is awesome. It's like, oh, this is awesome. I can come to one place now, get them all. Okay, where is there it is. Yeah, that's the one because it's got all the Redux and Stripe, and you get to play with styled components and even deal with Firebase as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a massive project. I think it's CRWN, and it's like an e-commerce clothing company. Okay, cool. So there's another question that we kind of talked about this already, but we can revisit it real quick. Top 10 wants to know, can I learn only with Udemy courses like React and JavaScript, or must I go to a boot camp?
I don't personally believe that you have to go to a boot camp. I do believe that if you're not going to go to a boot camp, that you're going to need to get with someone that has some experience in the field and can either help you tailor whatever curriculum it is that you're going to be studying that will get you a job, or then you boot camp. Because if you're not going to do that, then yes, boot camp is going to be the only way, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. So like having someone kind of steer that, and that's what boot camps do, are going to steer it in a direction. That's what they're good at. So that's what they're good for, at least. So.
Right. Okay. Switching gears, William Claybrook wants to know, he says, I have a degree in project management. How do you feel that would help me in job performance and or boot camps?
Oh my gosh. So Catherine's on here. She could tell you. So one of the hard things when developers have to lead projects, it's a mess, right? Because we don't think sometimes project managers, especially the good ones that I've worked with, have a much better understanding of how to like look at the whole entire landscape of a project and do a good job of, mitigating some risks that are there where like maybe you'd slow down or like you'd be stuck or whatever the case may be to kind of help you get to that next milestone. And like having that experience already as a project manager will help you as a developer, because you'll be able to like understand that right away. Because there are some developers where they can kind of get in a silo, right? And so like you're used to kind of doing things in this one way without any sort of overhead, or like especially with teamwork stuff where again, a good project manager will kind of rein that in so that you are operating as one team.
Okay, so this is not related to this question at all, but I have in my circle, I get DMs, I get comments on YouTube and all this stuff from developers of various abilities. And a few times, and this isn't a frequent thing, but a few times I've gotten a DM from a developer who's having a really tough time at their new role. It's just like, for whatever reason, they don't think they're good enough. The code base is too complicated. If someone gets to that point where they're scared they're going to get fired, like what do you recommend they do to try and untangle whatever mess they're in at that point?
Yeah. You need to talk to somebody, right? Like that's first thing. Like you're going to need to reach out to whoever senior leadership is for the dev group that you're in, and just kind of explain to them where you are. I know one of the mistakes that I made when I initially got to Volley, because I'm working with people that have been in Amazon and Facebook and Google, and like I felt like I needed to learn more, like I wasn't worthy to stand next to them, right? So like I'm going home and spending 9 to 10 hours after I get home to like 2 o'clock in the morning every night trying to cram in as much information for that night for tomorrow. Like, don't do that. Like that's not going to help. You're not going to retain that anyway. So reaching out and talking to somebody and kind of telling them where you are. Because I would say, like, at least in the positions that I've been in, like overwhelmingly people have been empathetic to like what I'm thinking or feeling at almost at any given moment. So like reaching out as opposed to like, clamming it up and then it coming out in weird ways, right? Because that's what will end up happening, right? Like you'll close it off and you'll think that it's fine, and like I'm just going to continue to plug along, and like you'll start having weird interactions with coworkers and be like, I don't understand like why that just happened. I'm telling you why it just happened, right? Like that's why. Like reach out, talk to someone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when it's funny you mentioned that thing about going home and studying for 8-9 hours after your time at work. That's exactly what happened to me too. My first couple of weeks, like I was completely overwhelmed with the code base when I was in enterprise. And so they were doing OOP, PHP, and all this other stuff with PHP that I've never done before. And I'm just like flipping my lid. I'm just like freaking out. So I'm like, I start hoarding these Udemy courses as I work at the job. And like, it just makes it, in a lot of ways, it just makes the situation worse. And like you said, just the best thing to do is just go to the person that you can confide in at work, whoever your superior, and just let them know what's happening. And that's step one. So yeah. Let's see. We have some questions here. Great questions, developers, by the way. See you later, Michael. Jackson Dove wants to know, is it worthwhile to explore the possibility of boot camps for established developers of a different country? I'm an iOS developer looking to immigrate to the States. What would be my best way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's worth it. Obviously, I wouldn't be here without them. I don't think. But for you that's has already had some experience, dude, seriously check out Codesmith. I know I keep pumping that, but check out Codesmith, because if you have even marginal amount of experience that can get past the initial interview, It's good. It really is. So like if you got, you know, a little bit of experience and again willing to put in some time, because they will challenge you, like they absolutely will. But yeah, like that's where I shoot for.
Okay.
And again, since they already have it online now, like so because you know before like you'd have the choice of either San Francisco or New York. Like those are your two choices. And when they took it online, like you even saw like in the CSX Slack channel, like I'd say it probably tripled in size once they announced that they were going to start doing online stuff. So
okay, cool. So developers, get your last questions in. It's almost 5:30 Central Standard Time. We're talking with Dom. Dom, let's hear give us your socials. How can people get in touch with you or follow you, or where are you at online?
yeah, so Twitter, it's Polyglot Dev. Let's see, where else am I on? Like I'm on Facebook. You can just look me up. It's Dom Hallen. I don't mind getting ads there. Email is just dom at polyglotdev.com. So I'm not great at Twitter. Like I'm just not. Like I
Yeah, me
really don't
neither.
mess with it often. Like I know I should probably do more, but like I'm like I'm just kind of like reading other stuff that people say, and it's really not even that often. So, but Dom at polyglotdev.com, and you can reach me there.
Okay, cool. Developers, thanks for joining us. Like I said, this is Dom. He's in Springboard. He is a boot camp veteran. He's an Army veteran. He's just an all-around veteran. So I want to thanks so much for coming on the channel and talking
No
about
problem.
your experience. So
No
yeah,
problem.
awesome. All right, well, good luck finishing up Springboard. And
Thanks.
keep me updated with your 7th boot camp and your 8th boot camp, because I don't like, why would you stop at 8? Why would you stop at 9?
Yes,
Is there a Guinness record for this?
yeah, I got to be done after Codesmith. I got to be
Okay,
done, so.
he's calling it quits. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next video. All right, see you guys later.